Hey guys, Brady from DAC Performance and Health, and today we're going to be talking about Mr. Dane Labrum. So Dane, aka TLE Donnie, aka the best Instagram captions on the planet. Just to start, I think we need to provide at least one example of it. These are his captions. One day shy till 2 months post-op. Love competing with this guy. He keeps looking at me. Dude has zero morals or likeness for mankind. You ever fist fight in alter ego before, John? I think it's safe to say that this really isn't towny hopscotch anymore. I will eat the carpet out of your floorboards. I don't know who he's talking to, but that is his caption. Anyway, so this is Dane. So what we want to talk about today is how he went about handling his operation. He had on, let's see here, he had surgery on May 20th for a slap tear. And so a slap tear simply means superior labrum, anterior posterior. So basically he had a tear where the bicep tendon inserts here and it goes from the front to the back on the top, right? So he had a tear there. He had surgery for that on May 20th of this year. The first day that we started work was June 24th. And so I have a couple specific clips from our first day of work here. So we go, yes, these are from our first day of work. So you can see he had roughly, as far as range goes, he had roughly shoulder height for range on our first day of work, in front, to the side, and then I believe we also go back behind. He has pretty decent range there as well. You can't hear it, but he's making noises, he's grunting, so it wasn't super easy. His range wasn't super easy, but that is what it looked like on June 24th, which was, again, his surgery was May 20th. That was on June 24th. That's roughly a month after his initial surgery date, and that's when we started first working together. And then on October 13th, which was like yesterday or 2 days ago, that was his first throwing day. I think he was actually cleared a little bit before that, but October 13th was his first throwing day, and these are the clips from his first throwing day, which he was extremely happy with. Felt really smooth, felt really easy. And you can see there, it looks like he's having to hold back because it's feeling pretty good for him. So that is a little bit of the timeline to start with, or that is the timeline to start with. May 20th surgery. First throw day was October 13th. Started working with us June 24th. So his first throw day was March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October. A little under 5 months post-op for his slap tear operation. Some specifics for him during that process. And it goes into what we want to talk about today, but specifically for Dane, this video here. So this was the first day, that was the first day. This was the first day that we did layback for Dane. We tried any type of layback, and you can see forearm is basically vertical. It might look like he has a little bit of layback, but it's just basically the wrist going into extension, right? So his forearm was basically straight up vertical. This is layback that we had, and this was on July 7th. And so this would be roughly 2 weeks after we first started, and it would be May to June to July, about a month and a half after his initial surgery date. So this is what it looked like on July 7th, and then we go to, we go to this one here. This is going to be on August 30th, and this is really the first time that we looked and he had full layback. And it did not feel perfect. I remember he said he felt some things kind of pulling like on the inside of the elbow area, so it did not feel perfect, but this is the first day that we had pretty damn close to full layback, and just a good example of showing what can happen over the course of a month and a half when we attack that smartly or when we attack that intelligently. It was really like 6 or 7 weeks there that we got to that point. So that is general timeline of what we did for Dane. Now what I want to cover is what we consider when we're going through this, because as I've said, anytime that we're doing rehab, anytime that we're doing something like this, it's going to be through our one-on-ones. If you're expecting to work with us for something like this to get a similar process that Dane has gone through, it's going to be through the one-on-ones. It's not through the vital programming. It's not through Instagram tips or DMs. Or tips through Instagram DMs. It's not through that. It's not through emails. It's specifically through one-on-ones, because we're going through daily and we're working with the individual daily with them during that process, and that's the only way that we found to be beneficial or where we're able to get results in the way that we get them, is because we're actually having communication with the person. We're actually seeing what they're doing each day, and they're actually leaving feedback so that we know how to progress as efficiently as possible, right? So what we considered as we were going through this process, let's see, let me pull up good old free form, and we need, we're going to need a new document. Bang, new document. Okay. So what we're going to be talking about then in this specific case is what to consider in labrum rehabs. Okay? First thing that we're going to do. Number one, what is the target? And there's a very specific reason I'm bringing this up. What is the target? Because the target, guys, look, ask who you're going to get your rehab from. Ask what is the target? What is the goal of this, right? Like what do we want to do? What is the target? If you go and you ask and they don't know, they're just like, well, I don't know, today we're giving you this exercise, or will you see here at the end of 12 weeks we're going to be at this point, or at the end of 16 weeks we're going to be at this point, or the target is to start you throwing in 6 months. Whatever it is, whatever that person says, right? If they don't understand what the actual target is, if that person doesn't understand what the actual target is, how are they going to get you to that target, right? And so the target is not any of that. The target is not, it's not a protocol, right? It's not, because I wrote a couple down. The target is not a protocol. It's not training. Our target is not to train you, right? Our target in our one-on-ones when we're doing rehabs my target is not to train you. That is not the target. The target is not to pay with insurance, right? Maybe for some people it is the target, but as far as the actual specific athlete and what we're attempting to do, the target is not to pay for insurance. Doesn't mean that you can't do that, but that's not the actual target, right? So what is the target? The target is you being able to throw better than you did before without having any inhibition about the surgery or the injury that you had. End of story. You can throw at specifically for a labrum if you're a baseball player. If you're not a baseball player, it's apply to whatever it is that you want to do. But you can throw at 100% intensity as much as you want, as often as you want, without having any worry or inhibition about anything that has happened previously, including the surgery and the injury. That is the target. The target is not to train. The target is not to go to a PT. The target is not to go to me. The target is not to pay with insurance. The target is not to find the best deal. The target is not to figure out how to work it into your schedule. The target is you get to the end and you can throw however hard you want, whenever you want, without having any worry about what happened before, including the surgery and the initial injury, right? So that is a target. That is what we start with. Because if we start with that is our target for Dane. That was our target for Dane. That is still our target for Dane, right? That is the target. In order to get there, we can then work back and see what we need to do to get him to that point. But if that's not the target, like literally, if you go to your PT or you go to the person that you're working with or your doc or whatever it is, like if you ask your doc, what's my target? Very likely he's going to say, well, the target is to get cleared in 4 months, or the target is to not have any pain, or the target is to have full range of motion. That is not the target. There might be little mini targets along the way, but that is not the end target. Your doctor's not going to say, dog, the target is for you to be able to go through 100 pitches or 120 pitches as hard as you can every 5th day and have absolutely zero worry about it. I haven't met a doctor that has said that yet. I hope we find one, but I haven't found one that has said that yet, right? So it's extremely understand to operate with somebody, to work with somebody that knows what the target is. Because if the person doesn't understand what the target is, there's no way that they have set up a plan to get you there. Right? So that's number one, what to consider in labrum rehabs. Number one, what is the target? And make sure it is the actual target. Make sure it is the actual target. Number two, what is still left? What is still left from the injury/surgery? By the way, I think we should go look at one more Dane. Let's see what this one. Dane, timeout for a Donnie. What are they called? Caption. I love the quote from Conor McGregor when he talks about Van Gogh. He says, "I have lost my mind on this game, to the brink of insanity," and so on. So, bang. Dane quote. Okay, or is it McGregor quote? Regardless, back. Number two, what is still left from the injury/surgery? So after we've established what is the target, then we're looking at what is still left from the injury/surgery, right? And so what does that mean? It means if we look at what actually happened before, right? Let's say that this is this is the individual that we're working with. This is going to be day one post-op. He has had this operation on his shoulder, right? We're going to call that his shoulder. And attached to this shoulder, he has, we're going to say physical restriction, right? Physical restriction. There may be mental restriction. And so what could mental restriction look like? He's like, dude, I don't want to move this because I have no idea what just happened. And so I feel like literally I have to think about it, right? He could have to, let's say there's like, I don't know, 50 different times during the day where he thinks about it. That is thinks about it. That is the mental restriction here. And so that is something that is still left from the injury/surgery. The physical restriction where maybe he can't, like he can't get more than 3 inches here, that is something that is still left from the surgery. There could also be like a specific event. So the day that he tore it, day he felt it tear, right? So he's got this, we're going to call this a memory, right? This is a memory bubble. He's got this memory bubble here, and this is, homie here is throwing a pitch. We got a hitter, and he feels it there. He's still, after the surgery, what is still left from the injury/surgery? He still remembers that. He's still like, oh, well, I tore it, and I'm worried about it, and I'm concerned about it, and I don't know if it's good, right? All of that is stuff that is still left from the injury/surgery. So we need to know and understand that which he is considering is still left from that surgery. And guys, again, like look at who it is, have this conversation with the people that you're working with. Ask them, how are you going to take care of what happened that I'm still concerned about that happened before? How are you going to make sure that I don't remember or that I don't care about the injury? How are you going to make sure that I have full trust in my shoulder when the last time I threw, I felt it snap or I felt it tear? How are you going to get me to the point where it's not in this freaking like cast anymore and I can actually move it and I don't have to worry about it anymore? Ask these questions of the people that you're working with and make sure that you can get an answer that you're happy with, that you're satisfied with, and that makes sense to you. Because we know what we're doing in regards to this, right? We know that these things are there for you. We know, and it's to greater or lesser degree. Some guys have more, some guys have less. It just depends, right? But we know to some degree, each individual has these things that have happened before that are still left that they need to work through if we want them to be fully rehabbed. Because if you're 1 year post-op and you're out here and you're having your first throw day on a mound, right? Or maybe you're warming up, right? You're throwing to your catcher and you're warming up and you're worried, like you have this thought of like shoulder, right? That is still a residual from here, which means that we haven't done enough to be able to get you to the point where you don't have that. Okay? So it's very important to take and address these earlier points. And this is not to say that if you're at this point that something is wrong. It is not at all to say that if you're at this point that something is wrong. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that it means that there's still work to do. There's still stuff left to do. There are still actions that you need to take for you to be able to be like, I have absolutely zero thought about what happened before. Which is, again, it's not a problem. It just means that there is action that needs to be taken to be able to handle that so that you no longer have that, so that you can go and you can throw, and you just get rid of it. There's absolutely zero worry, concern, or thought about the shoulder. Right? So that is the second thing that we're considering. What is still left from the injury/surgery? So number one, what is the target? What are we going towards? Number two, what do we need to clean up that has happened, that you're worried about, that you're concerned about, that you have restriction around? Number three out of four. Number three, what is it you're preparing for? Question mark. Okay? So, this is looking back, right? If we draw a picture, my pictures are so good. If you think my pictures are good, or you think they're terrible, either way, let me know. Please. I can take it. It's fine. It really doesn't matter to me. Okay, so let's say we have a dog here, and we have forward, so we're going to call this future. future, and we have backward, so we're going to call this past, right? And then this is where the individual is right now. Number 2 is handling here, right? Number 2 is looking at what happened in the past, what do we need to do to get you to the point where you're not concerned about those things that have happened that we talked about. Number 3 is what is it you're preparing for? So this is going forward. So this is based off of this. This is based off the target. And this is why I said earlier it's so important for whoever it is that you're working with to know what the target is. If they don't know what the target is, how are they going to actually prepare you for that future that that you want to get to? The future that we're going to get to, how do you get prepared for that if you don't know that that is the actual target? If you're not working with an individual where like, this is the target, right? And so, number 3, what is it you're preparing for? We then need to know, let's say we're at the point where, like if we go back to the videos, right? If we're at the point where we're here, right? So this is the first time that he really got full layback. We're starting to get to the point for him. We're starting to get to the point where he's like, okay, my shoulder's feeling better. My shoulder's feeling better. I'm not feeling as much restriction. I can do more. I'm not as worried about it. I'm not as concerned about it. I'm able to see. I'm able to show myself that, it's better than it was before, and I'm getting closer and closer to being able to throw again, right? Once we get to that point, whoops, wrong one. I'm not doing any keynote bulls. Once we get to that point, right? We have gotten to the point where we're getting close to getting rid of all those things that he was concerned about before. Doesn't mean totally, because when he starts to throw, there's going to be some thought of like, okay, this is what happened last time, or there could be some thought of this is what happened last time that I threw, right? But we're getting close to the point where he's getting rid of all that. So it's now it's like, okay, what do we do? Now we look forward. Once you get rid of the mental inhibition, the physical restriction, all those things that are associated with what is still left from the past, or what is still left from the injury or surgery, now we look at, okay, great. What is it that we're actually preparing for going forward? Because now that becomes what it is that we're rehabbing for. We're not rehabbing to get rid of what happened to you in the past. We're now rehabbing to prepare you so that when you get to the point where he's throwing 100, right? This is him going da-da, right? Because the radar gun says 100. Once we've handled this, we're now preparing for that. And so that means like, okay, so what is the actual intensity? And I think that this is, I don't know individual PTs. I'm talking as a generality, but I want to make sure that I say that as a whole, in terms of those that go through PT, those that get the education as a whole. Does not mean that there are not good PTs. Does not mean that there are not PTs that know exactly what it is that they're doing and that can get you prepared, right? But what I'm saying is, as a whole, I think that this is where that field gets it extremely wrong. Because to get to this point, we're going to have to do some very intense things. To get to this point and not have this thought that we talked about earlier, remember the thought that we talked about of like shoulder when he's throwing? In order to get to this point where he's throwing 100 and he doesn't have this thought, what we fill in this gap has to be extremely intense. It has to literally put him in a position where, let's say before, again, he has this thought of shoulder, right? Before we start, at the end, it's gone. It's just not there. There's nothing there. There's a fire emoji there. That's what that's going to be, is a fire emoji, right? But to do that, it's going to have to be extremely intense because this is extremely intense. And so if your PT or your training at some point after your injury or after a surgery is not getting you ahead, right? Throwing should not be the first thing that you do that is intense. We should not throw before we can do every single thing physically that I'm going to ask you to do, or that someone that can put together a well-designed program can put together. We should not throw before you can do every single thing in there and have absolutely zero restriction around it. Because the throwing this is going to be much more intense, or is going to be is going to require a very intense amount of effort and energy and trust, right? This is going to require a lot of that, and so we need to do that in our training beforehand. But throwing should not be the first thing. When you go to throw, you should not be feeling inhibited. You should not be feeling worried. You should not be feeling anxious. Doesn't mean that they have to feel perfect. It does not mean that the throws have to feel perfect, but it means that you should absolutely 100% be prepared and have no doubt that you can go throw this right now. You can go throw this baseball right now, or this plow right now, or whatever it is, right? And that's the goal of this, is once we get rid of everything that has happened before the surgery and injury, you're like, okay, feeling pretty good, great. Now we need to prepare for ahead, so that when you get to that 100, you're not looking back. You're there. You're fully there. And that's where the intensity comes in the training. That's where the high intensity impulses, the high intensity depth drops, like all the things that we do, that's where that comes in terms of preparing you for the future to get you away from what has happened before so that you have zero thought about it. So that's number 3. And then, hold on. We need one more Donnie quote. Day 73 post-op. Day 1 front squats with a lot of hammy work. Had a hamster named Hammy once. He enjoyed Cheerios. I didn't know hamsters ate Cheerios. And lived a meaningful life. He once died and then came back to life. TLE Donnie. Good. Number 4. Last one. Final consideration. 0 limitation before throw. So this is, I got ahead of myself. 0 limitation before throw, right? Which we already talked about. So guys, if we're not hitting these 4 things in a rehab, then what are we doing, right? We're not looking to try to get to this endpoint. We're not looking to guess. We're not trying to hope. We're not trying to throw, like, try needling, or try massage, or try dry, or try cupping, or try these different things. That is not the goal in terms of how we do things here through our one-on-ones, through the rehabs that we do. Our goal is not to try these different things. It's not to just like throw it at the wall and hope it sticks, right? Where it's like, you know, you're here, you come to me, you're like, hey bro, I'm still feeling this in my shoulder, and I'm like, oh, okay, let's throw this, we have a wall here, let's throw this thing at the wall, hope it sticks and gets rid of your shoulder pain. That's not the goal, okay? The goal is to know the goal is to know for sure. The goal is to put you in a position where you know for sure. Why won't that go in? The goal is to put you in a position where you know for sure that you are ready to go, right? And so if you don't know why you're doing the things that you're doing, if you don't know what all the different modalities that you're doing are supposed to do for you, or how they're helping you, or how they're actually putting you in this final position where you have 0 limitation before throw without needing anything, right? Without needing to cup it, without needing to massage it, without needing to do a soft tissue release. I'm not saying that you can't do those things, right? If that's your thing, if you feel like that makes you better, then great. What I'm saying is the way that we operate and the way that we work is because of the design of the body, right? I'll go into this a little bit. I know if you're having inhibition in your shoulder, and we're just going to try to put pressure on that to relieve it for a period of time, I know that that's a Band-Aid. Our goal is not Band-Aids. Our goal is no matter where you are, what you're doing, you know that your shoulder is good, right? To put it in a position where it has no reason to restrict, period. Not where we have to try to do something that takes it away for 30 minutes or 60 minutes, but where it's gone forever. And that anything that happens is now in the future, it's now in the present, or it's now in the future. It's a completely different and separate thing. And so that is our specific goal. I can't speak for others, but that is our specific goal. And that's why we don't use a lot of those modalities, is because they don't actually change the actual condition of your tissue. For us, or for me, if you feel something as we're going through this rehab process, great. We don't need to take it away. I want to know, because that's feedback for how your body's responding to the training. That means that we're going to adjust what we're doing to eventually put it in a position where it doesn't need to present that. But the pain, the sensation that you feel is the after effect of what's already happened. It's already done. It's already done. It already happened, right? I don't need to treat it, because it's not you just sitting there and having the pain is not causing you any damage. It's something that happened before. And that's just information. So then we adjust going forward, but we don't need to take it away right now in the moment, because it's just feeling a sensation. You're not getting injured sitting there with your shoulder hurting. It already happened, and so we adjust going forward so it doesn't have a reason to hurt. So we put it in a position where it doesn't have to do that, right? And that's the goal. Get to the end where you have 0 limitation before throw without needing anything to manipulate it, change it, whatever. It's just like, you're like, I have no doubt that I'm ready to go. And that was our goal with Donnie. That is our goal with Donnie. Dane, Donnie, whatever it is that we want to call him. We can end off with one more. I think I have one more Donnie quote. 929 first pick, 7-7 first picture, 929 second vid. It's not what your ER, external rotation, can do for you. It's what you can do for your ER. Sonny said in the Bronx Tale that the working man is a sucker. I disagree. So, bang. Hope that helps give you some perspective on what it is that we do. Again, these are only done through our one-on-ones. This level of detail, this level of day-to-day communication, working, progression, right? It's not possible to do this, for us at least, it's not possible for us to do this in any other way. And this allows us to get all the data that we need on a day, at the start, and then also on a daily basis, so that we can do work how it is that we work to help the individual get back to the point that we're getting to. So congrats to Dane, just getting started. Thank you guys for watching. Brady out.